Ball falls out of play for point going to Irvine. Score's tied at 2 with Marty Ross to serve. Ball's poked out of play for a point going to Irvine as they take the lead at 3, serving to 2. Knocking it off the right side block is Matt Marsh for a point going to Santa Barbara. Connor Drake back to serve, and we're tied at 3s. Carl Apfelbach ripping it out of the right side. Point going to UC Irvine. Apfelbach back to serve. Banging at the outside is Austin Kinji for point, going to UCSB. Marsh back to serve. We're tied at 4s. Austin Kinji reaching high for point, going to the Gauchos. 5 serving to 4. Torching it down the line is Carl Apfelbach. 5 serving to 5. Reed Dominguez back to serve. Knocking it down at the outside is Austin Kinji for point, going to Santa Barbara. Kinji back to serve at 6-5. Jason Agopian ripping it in the middle for point, going to UC Irvine. Agopian back to serve for the Anteaters. Banging at the backside is Ryan Hardy for point, going to the Gauchos. Hardy back to serve at 7, serving 6. Delson and Drake double down in the middle for point, going to Santa Barbara. 8 serving to 6. Ball falls out of play for a point, going to the Gauchos. 9 serving 6. Ball's knocked off the net. Now to play for point going to Irvine. 7 looking at 9. Saeda serves up a dirty ace. 8 looking at 9. Tamir Hershko going ballistic off the block, and we're tied at 9s. Ball's passed out of play for a point going to UC Irvine as they take the lead at 10-9. Timeouts taken by the Gauchos as they now trail here in set number 1 to the Anteaters in our MPSF men's volleyball matchup. Hey fans, at Wells Fargo, our goal is to educate students, faculty, alumni, and the local community about the basics of money management as well as provide sound financial advice. Our knowledgeable bankers are here to help you meet all your financial goals. Stop by our newest Wells Fargo full-service branch located conveniently in the UCI Student Center. UC Irvine Health is home to more than 100 best doctors in America and the UC Irvine Medical Center. Recognized by U.S. News and World Report as the best hospital in specialty care for 15 straight years. For world-class care, turn to UC Irvine Health. Ten serving to 9 out of the timeout, and Michael Saeda back to serve for the Anteaters. Jacob Jellison bringing it off the block for point, going to the Gauchos. Jonas safe back to serve. We're tied at 10s. Jumper sails long for point, going to the Anteaters. Tamir Hershko serving for UCI. Marty Ross taking out the trash. 12 serving to 10. blasting it at the outside is Matt Marsh for point, going to the Gauchos. Delson back to serve, 11 looking at 12. Right side attack goes long for point, going to Santa Barbara, and we're tied at 12s. Net violation called against Santa Barbara for a point, going to Irvine. 13 serving at 12. Ross back to serve for Irvine. Marsh ripping it out of the right side for point, going to the Gauchos. Connor Drake back to serve, tied at 13s. Look out below. Hershko with a blast, 14 serving at 13. Carl Apfelbach back to serve. Ball's tipped wide for point, going to UCSB. Score's tied at 14s. Hershko with a changeup. Point going to UC Irvine, 15 serving 14. Jason Agopian and Tamir Hershko with a double dejection. 16 serving to 14. Spanking it down in the middle is Ryan Hardy for point going to Santa Barbara. Austin Kinji back to serve. With a quick back attack is Jason Agopian. Point going to Irvine. Agopian back to serve at 17-15. Service floats wide and long for point going to the Gauchos. Ryan Hardy back to serve, 16 serving at 17. Tamir Hershko with the off-speed roll. Point going to UC Irvine. Michael Saida to serve, 18 serving to 16. On the quick attack is Connor Drake for points, Santa Barbara. Jonas Safe back to serve, 17, looking at 18. Torching it down the line is Tamir Hershko for point, going to UCI. Hershko back to serve for the Anteaters. Access denied. Ross and Apfelbach on the double trouble. 20 serving to 17. Service goes long for point, going to the Gauchos. 18 serving to 20. Delson back to serve. Jumper goes long for point, going to Irvine. Substitution for the Anteaters coming in, number 6, Tucker Pikula, for number 13, Marty Ross. Pikula back to serve for the Anteaters. Roll shot into the twine for point, going to Irvine. 22 serving to 18. Timeouts taken by the Gauchos as they trail here in set number 1. 22-18 to the Anteaters of UC Irvine. Hey fans, Newport Rib Company has been feeding hungry Anteater fans for over 25 years. We have a lot of competition, but our ribs don't. Visit us online at ribcompany.com. Learn to play the Anteater way. Camps and clinics are offered throughout the year in a variety of boys and girls sports. Visit ucirvinesports.com/camps for more information. Out of the timeouts, 22 serving to 18. Tucker Pikula continues service for Irvine. Ray Dominguez with a cross-court crush. 23 serving to 18. Knocking it down in the middle is Connor Drake for point, going to Santa Barbara. Substitution for Irvine, Marty Ross back in for Tucker Pikula. Tamir Hershko tipped it by for point going to Irvine. On your feet. Set point Irvine, serving to 19. Carl Apfelbach back to serve. Tamir Hershko with a rise and rip for point and set number one as the Anteaters take it 25-19 and lead our best of five matchup. 1-0 over the Gauchos of UC Santa Barbara. Let me tweet out. Hey fans, join the Anteater Athletic Fund tonight. Annual contributions provide all student athletes with the opportunity to pursue their academic and athletic goals while learning the skills that will prepare them to make an impact in their future communities. For a list of all membership benefits, visit ucirvinesports.com or send email to aaf@uci.edu. Jimmy John's is located on the campus of UCI and is serious about delivery. They'll deliver just one sandwich. Yep, that's the minimum. Order Jimmy John's sandwich delivery tonight. And the UCI Alumni Association is proud to support UC Irvine Athletics. In partnership with our alumni and the university, we are stronger together. As they reset the court for set number two, the Eaters lead 1-0 on the Gauchos. Jonas safe to start off service for UCSB. Tamir Hershko bringing it downtown for the pound. Saida back to serve. Roll shot into the string for point, going to Santa Barbara. Jacob Delson back to serve. We're tied at ones. Right side attack goes long for point, going to UCI. Tamir Hershko serving for the Anteaters. Austin Kinji splitting the seam at the outside for point, going to the Gauchos. Connor Drake back to serve. We're tied at twos. Matt Marsh slipping it by the block for point, going to Santa Barbara. Marsh back to serve at three, serving two. Double stuff the outside by Marsh and Hardy. Point going to the Gauchos. Right side attack goes long for point, going to Santa Barbara. Five, serving two. Hardy and Kinji with a double stuff for point, going to Santa Barbara. Timeouts taken by Irvine as they trail here in our second set. 6-2 to the Gauchos. Hey fans, Slapfish Restaurant brings the quality fresh seafood of a fine dining restaurant and the cost and convenience of fast food. Visit Slapfish Restaurant across the street in University Town Center and in Newport Beach. Also, learn to play the Anteater way. Camps and clinics are offered throughout the year in a variety of boys and girls sports. Visit ucirvinesports.com/camps for more information. Out of the timeout, it's 6 serving to 2. Gauchos serving to the Eaters. Drake continues service for Santa Barbara. Tamir Hershko with a back row blast. 3 looking at 6, Marty Ross to serve. Reed Dominguez with a power roll. 4 serving to 6. Austin Kinsey with a cross-court delivery for point. Going to the Gauchos. Marsh back to serve at 7-4. Jump serve into the twine for point. Going to Irvine. Carl Apfelbach back to serve for the Eaters. Jumper misses long for point, going to UCSB. Kinsey back to serve at 8-5. Service into the net for point, going to UCI. Reed Dominguez back to serve for Irvine. Left side attack into the twine for point, going to UC Irvine. 7 looking at 8. Jump serve for ace and point for Dominguez and the Anteaters. Scores tied at 8. Timeouts taken by the Gauchos. We're all tied up here in our second set at 8 apiece. Out of the team timeout, it's 8 serving to 8. Reed Dominguez continues service for UC Irvine. Matt Marsh blasting off the block for point, going to the Gauchos. Brian Hardy back to serve at 9, serving 8. Service ace for point as the Gauchos take the lead at 9-8. Michael Saeda with a dump up high. Point going to UC Irvine. 9 serving at 10. Jason Agopian to serve. On the quick attack is Connor Drake for point, going to the Gauchos. Jonas Safe back to serve at 11, serving to 9. Jump serve into the floss for point going to UCI. Saida back to serve for Irvine. With a wind-up and the swing is Tamir Hershko, and we're tied at 11s. Dealing out an ace from the deck is Michael Saida. 12, serving 11. Jump serve into the net for a point going to UCSB. Jacob Delson back to serve. We're tied at 12s. Back row attack goes wide and long. Point going to Irvine, 13, serving at 12. Tamir Hershko serving for Irvine. Reed Dominguez with a rise and rip. 14 serving at 12. Marty Ross with a clamp down in the middle. 15 serving 12. Timeouts taken by the Gauchos. They now trail here in set number 2. 15-12 to the Anteaters of UC Irvine. Fifteen serving at 12 out of the timeout. Tamir Hershko serving for Irvine. Knocking it at the right side is Matt Marsh for point going to UCSB. Connor Drake serving at 13-15. double stuffing by Hardy and Marsh. 14 serving to 15. Net violation on the Gaucho side. Point going to UC Irvine. 16 serving to 14. Marty Ross back to serve. Austin Kinji with a cross-court rip. Point going to Santa Barbara. Marsh back to serve at 15-16. Jason Agopian with a tip in the middle for Point Irvine. 17-15 substitution on the court. Coming in, number 15, Kyle Russell for number 16, Carl Apfelbach. Russell back to serve. Reed Dominguez rolling it by. Point going to Irvine, 18-15. Ryan Hardy with a stop and pop for point going to the Gauchos. 16 serving to 18. Kinji back to serve. Michael Saeda sneaks one by. Point going to Irvine, bringing Reed Dominguez back to serve. Ryan Hardy delivers in the middle for point, going to Santa Barbara. Hardy back to serve, 17, looking at 19. Tamir Hershko with a levitation at the left side. 20 is serving to 17. Agopian back to serve. Substitution for Irvine coming in, number 6. Tucker Pikula in for number 4. Jason Agopian. Pikula back to serve for Irvine. Tamir Hershko with a use and abuse. 21 serving to 17. Back row attacker violation called against Santa Barbara. Point going to Irvine. 22 serving to 17. Double denial by Saida and Ross. 23 serving to 17. Matt Marsh ripping it out of the right side for a point going to Santa Barbara. Back in number 4 at Gopi and for number 6 Pikula. Jonah safe serving, 18 looking at 23. Dealing out an ace is Jonah safe. Point going to the Gauchos. 19 looking at 23. Jonah safe, deals out another ace for a point. Going to the Santa Barbara. Timeouts taken by Irvine as they still lead 23-20 here in set number 2. Looking at 23 out of the timeout. Jonah save continues service for the Gauchos. Jacob Jelson knocks it off the outside block for points. Santa Barbara as they pull within a pair at 21-23. Jump serve into the twine for point Irvine. Get on up for set point eaters serving at 21. Michael Saida back to serve for Irvine. Kyle Russell off the bump set from Dylan Hoffman. Point and set number 2. Going to the Anteaters. They now lead 2-0 in our best of 5 MPSF volleyball matchup. The Anteater Shuffle has been brought to you tonight by UCI Irvine Health. As we reset the court for set number 3, the Anteaters lead the Gauchos 2-0 in our best-of-5 matchup. UC Irvine will start off with service here in our third set with Michael Saida back to serve. Matt Morris splitting the seam at the right side for a point going to Santa Barbara. Connor Drake back to serve for the Gauchos. Four contacts called on the Gauchos side for a point going to Irvine. Scores tied at once. Tamir Hershko serving for the Anteaters. Service into the net for a point going to Santa Barbara. Matt Marsh serving for UCSB. Foot fault on the service for point going to UC Irvine. Marty Ross serving, scores tied at 2s. Net violation called against Irvine for a point going to Santa Barbara. Austin Kinji back to serve for the Gauchos. Jonah safe with a back dump. Point going to UCSB, 4 serving 2. With a slice and dice at the outside is Reed Dominguez. Kyle Russell back to serve at 3 serving 4. Double stuffing at the outside by Michael Saeta and Jason Agopian. Scores tied at 4s. Scorching out an ace is Kyle Russell. Point going to UCI as they take the lead at 5-4. Ball's tipped by the block by Matt Marsh for point going to Santa Barbara. Scores tied at 5s, bringing Ryan Hardy back to serve. Right side attack misses long for point going to UCSB. Scores tied at 5s. Jason Agopian pulls the trigger in the middle. Point going to UC Irvine. Reed Dominguez serving for the Anteaters. Jump serve into the net for a point going to Santa Barbara. Safe back to serve for the Gauchos, 7 serving 6. Busting it on the line is Jason Agopian. Point going to UCI. Agopian serving tied at 7s. Matt Marsh knocking it off the block for point going to Santa Barbara. Jacob Delson serving at 8 serving 7. Service goes long for point going to the Anteaters. Michael Saeta back to serve for Irvine, tied at 8s. Kyle Russell throwing down at the right side. Point going to UC Irvine. 9 serving to 8. Ball's hit off the antenna at the outside for point going to UC Irvine. 10 serving 8. Hershko, Ross, and Russell on the triple rejection. 11-8 timeout, Santa Barbara, as they trail here in set number 3 in our MPSF men's volleyball matchup. Hey fans, Transportation Charter Services is the official carrier of UC Irvine Athletics. Visit us at tcsbus.com. Out of the timeout, 11 serving 8. Michael Saeta back to serve for Irvine. Middle attack goes wide for point, going to UC Irvine. 12 serving 8. Off the quick back attack is Connor Drake. Point going to UCSB. Drake back to serve at 9, serving 12. Unloading off the backside block is Tamir Hershko for point going to Irvine. Hershko serving at 13-9. Service goes long for point going to Santa Barbara. Matt Marsh serving for the Gauchos. Jump serve goes long for point going to Irvine. 14 serving to 10, Marty Ross serving. Knocking it off the block is Ryan Hardy for point going to UCSB. Austin Kinji back to serve, 11 looking at 14. Delson and Hardy with a double trouble for point going to Santa Barbara. 12 serving to 14. Substitution for UCSB. Coming in number 12, Corey Shavers. In for number 10, Jacob Delson. Reed Dominguez flying high at the outside, 15, serving at 12 for Irvine. Kyle Russell serving for UC Irvine. Service center the net for a point going to UCSB. Hardy back to serve at 13-15. Net violation called against UC Irvine for point going to UCSB. 14, serving to 15. Outside attack misses long for point going to the Gauchos. We're all tied up at 15s. Kyle Russell with a roller at the right side. Point going to Irvine. Reed Dominguez back to serve at 16-15. Net violation called against Santa Barbara for point going to UCI. 17, serving to 15. With a blast to the outside is Corey Shavers. Her point going to Santa Barbara. Jonas Safe back to serve, 16, serving to 17. Service into the net for point going to Irvine. Substitution for the Anteaters, Tucker Pikula in for number 4, Jason Agopian. Pikula back to serve. Connor Drake with a stop and pop in the middle for point. Going to the Gauchos. Back in Jason Agopian for Tucker Pikula. Shavers back to serve for the Gauchos. Out of the back rows, Corey Shavers once again for point going to Santa Barbara. Scores tied at 18s. Connor Drake drills the pill in the middle for point going to Santa Barbara as they take the lead at 19-18. Lift called on the Anteater side for point going to Santa Barbara. 20 is serving to 18. Timeouts taken by Irvine as they now trail here in set number 3. 2018 to the Gauchos of Santa Barbara. Hey fans, Which Wich is located across the street in Campus Plaza next to Albertsons. Which Wich, making superior sandwiches any which way. (2018) out of the timeout. Corey Shavers back to serve for Santa Barbara. Austin Kinsey delivers off the outside block for point going to the Gauchos. 21 serving to 18. No. Ball's dug out of play for point going to Santa Barbara. 22 serving to 18. Service goes wide for point going to Irvine. 19 serving to 22. Michael Saida back to serve for Irvine. Dropping the rock in the middle is Connor Drake for point going to the Gauchos. Drake back to serve at 23 to 19. Corey Shavers out of the back row for point going to Santa Barbara. And it's set point Gauchos serving at 19. Drake back to serve for Santa Barbara. Marty Ross with a quick attack for point going to Irvine. Hershko serving, 20 serving to set point number 2. Reed Dominguez tools the outside block. Point going to Irvine. 21 serving to set point number 3. Kyle Russell rocking it down the line for Point Irvine. 22 serving to set point number 4. Timeouts taken by the Gauchos as they still lead 24-22 here in set number 3. Out of the timeout, it's 22 serving to set point number 4. Tamir Hershko continues service for Irvine. Ball falls on the Irvine side for point, and set number 3 going to the Gauchos as our best of 5 MPSF matchup goes to 2-1 in favor of the Anteaters. As we reset the court for set number 4, the Anteaters lead our best of 5 matchup, 2-1 over the Gauchos of UC Santa Barbara. However, the Gauchos will start off with service here in our 4th set with Connor Drake back to serve. Busting out the whooping stick is Kyle Russell. 1-0, Saida back to serve. Ryan Hardy drills it in the middle for point, going to Santa Barbara. Matt Marsh serving for UCSB. With the retaliation attack is Marty Ross. Point going to Irvine. Hershko serving. Ryan Hardy with a stop and pop for point going to Santa Barbara. Austin Kinji back to serve for UCSB. Marty Ross to Kyle Russell. Point going to UCI. 3-2, Ross back to serve. Service floats long for point going to Santa Barbara. Ryan Hardy serving for UCSB. Service center the net for point going to Irvine. Kyle Russell serving for the Aiders. Corey Shavers knocks it at the outside for point going to Santa Barbara. Jonas Safe back to serve. We're tied at 4s. Ball's knocked off the block by Kyle Russell for point going to Irvine. Matt Marsh with a blast off the block for point going to Santa Barbara. Scores tied at 5s. Corey Shavers back to serve for the Gauchos. Kyle Russell flicking the bick. Point going to UCI. Jason Agopian back to serve. Connor Drake drills in the middle for point going to Santa Barbara. Drake back to serve. We're tied at 6s. Tamir Hershko with the extreme angle. 7 serving to 6. Saida back to serve. Service sent in the net for point. Going to the Gauchos. Marsh serving. We're tied at 7s. Marty Ross on the shoot set for point. Going to the Anteaters. Hershko serving for Irvine. Corey Shavers out of the back row for point, going to the Gauchos. Scores tied at 8s. Austin Kinji back to serve. Marty Ross with a pop in the middle for point, going to Irvine. Ross back to serve at 9-8. Service sent to the net for point, going to UCSB. Ryan Hardy serving for the Gauchos. Safe, and Drake on the double for point, going to the Gauchos. 10 serving to 9. Connor Drake with a one-timer for point, going to UCSB. 11 serving to 9. Reed Dominguez sending fire in the hole. 10 looking at 11. Kyle Russell back to serve. Jump serve goes long for point, going to the Gauchos. Jonas Safe back to serve, 12 serving 10. Safe with another ace for point, going to UCSB. 13 serving to 10. Timeouts taken by UC Irvine as they trail here in set number 4, 13-10 to the Gauchos of UCSB in our MPSF men's volleyball matchup. Thirteen serving a 10 out of the timeout. Jonas safe. Continues service. Roll shot into the net for point going to Irvine. 11 serving 13. Reed Dominguez serving. Right side attack goes wide for point going to the Gauchos. 14 serving 11. Jason Agopian with a run and gun. Agopian back to serve, 12, serving 14. Kyle Russell firing down the line for point going to Irvine. 13 looking at 14. Matt Marsh rolls it down the line for point going to the Gauchos. Connor Drake back to serve, 15, serving 13. Michael Saeta with a stealth attack. 14 looking at 15, Saeta back to serve. Lift called on the Santa Barbara, correction, beyond the net violation called against Santa Barbara. Point going to UC Irvine. Score's tied at 15. Michael Saeta to serve. Punching out an ace is Michael Saeta for point going to Irvine. Timeout taken by Santa Barbara. as they now trail 16-15 here in set number 4 in our MPSF men's volleyball matchup. Out of the timeout at 16, serving at 15. Michael Saeda back to serve for the Eaters. Michael Saeda with 2 of a kind on the another ace for point going to Irvine. 17, serving to 15. Kyle Russell and Marty Ross, large and in charge. 18-15 timeout taken by the Gauchos. They still trail to the Eaters of UC Irvine. (18-15) out of the team timeout. Michael Saeda continues service for the Anteaters. Knocking it inside the block is Matt Marsh for point. Going is Santa Barbara. Marsh back to serve, 16, looking at 18. Tamir Hershko with a cross-court crush. 19 serving to 16, Hershko serving for Irvine. Kyle Russell with a rock and roll. 20 serving to 16. Hardy and Kinji doubling down at the outside. 17 serving to 20. Austin Kinji serving for the Gauchos. Ross fires one down in the middle for point, going to Irvine. Substitution coming in number 6, Tucker Pikula in for number 13, Marty Ross. Pikula back to serve for the Eaters. Ball's dug out of play for point, going to UCSB. 18 looking at 21. Substitution, Ross back in for Pikula. Hardy back to serve for the Gauchos. Reed Dominguez off the bump set from Hershko. 22 serving to 18. Kyle Russell back to serve for Irvine. Service goes wide for point, going to Santa Barbara. Jonas Safe back to serve, 19 looking at 22. Service ace for point for Safe and the Gauchos. 20 looking at 22. Right side attack goes long. Correction, ball's knocked off the block by Kyle Russell. Point going to UC Irvine. Reed Dominguez back to serve, 23 serving at 20. Ball's knocked off the right side, blocked by Corey Shavers. Her point going to UCSB. Shavers back to serve, 21 looking at 23. Fire in the hole for Tamir Hershko, and it is match point. Serving at 21, Jason Agopin back to serve for Irvine. Blasting it down the line is Austin Kinji for point going to the Gauchos. 22 serving to match point number 2. Substitution for the Gauchos coming in. Number 4, Drew Poyan in for number 13, Connor Drake. Poyan back to serve. Tamir Hershko with a hang and bang for point, set, and match as the Eaters defeat the Gauchos of UC Santa Barbara 3-1, 25-19, 25-21, 22-25, and 25-22. Hey fans, catch the next UC Irvine men's volleyball match right here in the Brent Event Center on Friday, January 29th at 7 p.m. when they take on the Cougars of BYU. And fans, UCI did not have a clean sweep for tonight's match. UCI fans will win every Monday at Buffalo Wild Wings. Mention UCI Mondays and receive a free snack-sized wings, only available at the Irvine and Lake Forest locations. Limit 1 per table. And fans, thank you for your attendance to tonight's UC Irvine MPSF matchup. Until next time, drive home safely, buckle up, see ya, and remember, rip 'em eaters.